What does it feel like to lose a company that you created with your own hands? Steve Jobs knows this feeling better than almost anyone in modern business history. This is a story not of linear success, but of identity loss, cognitive transformation, psychological reinvention, and eventual triumph born from defeat. Steve Jobs co-founded Apple in 1976 in a garage with his friend Steve Wozniak. They were young, ambitious, and convinced that personal computers could change the world. In less than a decade, Apple became a public company worth over $1 billion. A staggering for two young founders. In 1984, Apple unveiled the Macintosh, a revolutionary personal computer with a graphical interface. But despite the brilliance of its design, the product struggled commercially. It was expensive, underpowered for many tasks, and customers were slow to adopt it. Jobs believed passionately in the Mac's potential. He saw creativity, intuition, and simplicity as the core of human-centered design. But he clashed repeatedly with the company's leadership over strategy, pricing, and focus. Apple's board brought in John Sculley, a seasoned executive from Pepsi, to bring structure and discipline to the company. The conflict boiled down to two fundamentally different ways of thinking. Jobs saw potential. What could be? Sculley and the board saw performance. What was selling now? Jobs wanted the Mac to be affordable and heavily marketed. The leadership believed the existing Apple II lineup, a cash cow, had to be protected to ensure financial stability. This type of conflict is common in psychology, known as vision versus execution tension. When a creative founder's long-term vision conflicts with short-term operational thinking, highly creative minds are often less tolerant of incremental thinking. They see future maps where others see only risk. When that visionary mindset clashes with traditional business structures, the result can be catastrophic. In 1985, the board sided with Sculley and stripped Jobs of all operational power. He was essentially pushed out of the role he had created for himself. While technically he resigned, the psychological reality was the same. He was removed from the company he defined. Imagine the impact of that moment. The company that carried his name, the people who believed in his creativity, no longer belonged to him. From a neurological standpoint, this is a massive identity shock. The human brain binds self, worth, and role so tightly that when a core role dissolves, it triggers something akin to a neural identity break. What you have built becomes indistinguishable from who you believe yourself to be. Jobs later described this period as one of the most painful chapters of his life. Not just professionally, but emotionally. Yet here's the turning point. When the ego collapses, the brain begins deep learning. When identity is stripped away, flexibility increases. This is a neurobiological response. Strong attachment to an idea creates rigidity. Losing that attachment opens cognitive pathways for new perspectives. Jobs didn't disappear. He didn't shrink. He evolved. NeXT, a new company aimed at high-end computers for education and business. While NeXT never became a mass-market success, its operating system would later become the foundation of modern macOS and iOS. But that wasn't all. He also purchased Pixar, a small graphics company with enormous creative potential. Pixar went on to revolutionize animation, producing Toy Story, the first fully computer-generated animated feature, and transforming Hollywood. This phase represents a critical psychological shift. Where once Jobs pursued perfection through control and dominance, he began to appreciate collaboration, incubation, and creative ecosystems. This is important because real innovation rarely happens in isolation. It emerges from iterative feedback loops, trial, failure, iteration, and refinement. In cognitive science, this is known as exploratory creativity, the ability to iterate between deep internal focus and external feedback. Jobs' time away from Apple sharpened exactly that skill. Then came the twist of history. By the mid-1990s, Apple was faltering. Its product line lacked focus. Market share was waning. The company that once defined the industry was drowning. Apple acquired NeXT in 1996, a decision that brought Jobs back into the company's orbit. Suddenly, the creator returned to the world he had once lost. When Jobs came back, he did not simply replicate what he had done before. He brought a new mindset. He simplified Apple's product line. He focused on design and user experience. He integrated technology with lifestyle. The iMac, the iPhone, the iPad, these were not incremental improvements. They were manifestations of Jobs' evolved cognitive identity, fused with discipline, narrative vision, and an insistence on excellence. This transformation reveals a fundamental truth: failure is not a detour from success. It is part of the same path. Neurologically, failure activates error-based learning systems in the brain. These systems strengthen resilience, improve pattern recognition, and expand creative problem-solving capacity. Jobs' firing was not the end. It was a cognitive reset. Instead of limiting his identity to one company, he broadened it to purpose, impact, and mastery. And this is what connects with you. You may not be building the next Apple, but you have faced moments when the world told you, stop. When rejection felt personal. When success seemed out of reach. In those moments, two neural systems compete: the amygdala, signifying threat, fear, and avoidance, and the prefrontal cortex, enabling reflection, meaning, and long-term planning. Jobs didn't suppress fear, he transformed it. He used it as feedback, as data, as fuel. Here is the ultimate lesson from Steve Jobs' story: success is not built by avoiding defeat. It is built by integrating defeat into your identity. What defines you is not what happens to you, but how you reframe what happens. Steve Jobs once said that being fired was the best thing that ever happened to him, because it forced him to rediscover who he was, not just as a founder of a company, but as a creator of culture and innovation. And once you understand that, rejection loses its power. It becomes just another step on the path toward mastery,